Welcome to Ninja Skills for Stress and Success. My name is Dr. Douglas Herr, and I'm here to guide you through a truly life-changing, revolutionary process. You've probably heard sayings like, the more things change, the more they stay the same. This course is really the antidote for that in your life. So it's really hard for me to capture how excited I am about it and stay grounded at the same time, but that's what I'm going to do. I'll try. First of all, in this video, let me tell you, I'm going to give you some logistical desires that I have for you to complete, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about how we're going to get started. There are two tracks to the program. One of them is a goal that we'll talk about, and the other one is positive intelligence, and I'll be sharing a little bit more about that today. So the second video that I'm putting up will be guiding you through the process if you need any more logistical help, because you got to get on the website and download some recordings that I'm going to make for you, some audio recordings. And those will be in your program, but it'll be easiest, I think. It's going to be easiest for me. By the way, I love this program so much, I'm going to do it with you. So we'll all be doing this together. I've actually just done it. I did the one that Shirzad created. I'm creating mine in his image. His is great. He's got fancier tech than I do. He charges twice as much. He's not giving you all the things I'm giving you. But you're going to get a great program. So I'm really excited about sharing it with you. Let's see here. Yeah, the second video I'm going to put up so that you don't have to listen to all the PQ stuff to get to the logistical stuff at the end. So here's the first piece. Please go to your profile in Coach Accountable. You should have all received an invitation. Well, I think that's how you got here. So once you go to Coach Accountable, what I want you to do is go to your profile and make sure that if you want text reminder messages, then please make sure that your phone number is in there, and then make sure that you change the default reminder to include texting you. This is what I prefer. If you're at your computer all day and you instantly get emails, talk to me about that, because I probably want you to change that. You don't run a company from the mailroom is the short answer. But if that's your life, then that's your life. Whatever works for you. But I do want you to know that this is an intensive practice. Now, when I say that, well, I'll explain that in a minute. I'm getting ahead of myself. The other thing I want you to do on your profile is if you would, please put up a picture. It really helps me to feel connected to you. Okay? So that's it for the logistical piece. Make sure that you get your default settings set up so that you get the reminders that are going to work for you. And please do respond to those reminders as soon as you've done the practice. That will help me to track what's happening for you. I am going to keep up with everything that you do. You just need to let me know. Okay? Okay, so let's talk about the first track, which is traditional coaching. You set a goal, I help you to work towards it, and that's what we're going to put on hold for right now. Now, the simple reason for that is I really want to make sure that this works. So instead of giving you instructions on how to do it, instead of giving you a half hour the first week, I'm going to give everybody a half hour a week of my time. Instead of giving you a half hour the first week, I'm going to give you an hour. Because what I want you to do is talk to me about what you really want. When you ask someone these days what they really want, what you really get is what they think they should say. Something practical, realistic, cut down to size. So there's what you really want. There's what really jazzes you up and makes you excited and makes you passionate. There's something you deeply care about that, if this were to be different before you leave the planet, like that would be it. Or if you can achieve this, you'll be happy. Whatever it is, that's this big, hairy, audacious goal, or it's a dream. If it's a goal you can get started on in 6 weeks, great. If it's a 5-10 year dream, we can work on that too. Here's the thing though. What most people are doing is this little thing, and it's so uninspired. I don't want you to do that. I want you to put something on the table that's really meaningful to you. And usually that works best if we talk about it. Because what people don't have is a free imagination that can be grounded now and wildly free to explore what success might look like. Unconditional positive regard. That's what we want to try and give to your deep desires, the desires of your heart. What we all have instead is a voice inside us that says, oh, no, don't. And it has, 10 different ways, literally, of telling us, no, don't do that. Be small, fit in, don't aspire. And if you do aspire, by the way, I'm going to stop you. It's the inner saboteur. And the inner critic, who's the master saboteur, can just really be hard on us. And the biggest thing to understand about all of this saboteur is it's all a lie. The lie is, well, you need this. You need to be really self-critical. You need someone to keep you in line in a harsh, ugly way. And it's just not true. As a matter of fact, it's just the opposite of true. The best saboteur is one that you don't even know exists because you honestly think it's you. That's where most people are. And that's why I want to have a conversation with you before we even get into your goal. Okay? What will facilitate you getting there is you start this other practice. And this is the real life changer. This is the game changer. This is the world changer, if we're going to be honest. Because when you get this piece, you're going to be getting work on the operating system of your brain. And I don't say that lately. If you're a techie person, this is kind of like the BIOS, the basic input-output system. I used to be an engineer, so I can pretend that I still know something. But here's the deal. That basic input-output system, that operating system level of what's going on in your brain was programmed in your childhood to survive. And unless you update it, as an adult, there's a deep part of your brain that's in child survive mode. Well, it's time to update it, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to shift it over to an adult thrive mode. And that means that, like if you were an airplane, like in one of my stories there, if you're an airplane and your wings are pointed down so that the faster you go, the more you're driven into the ground, that's the child survive way. That makes stress really awful. If you're in adult thrive mode, that stress, those wings get turned up and you just lift off. You ride above it all. High stress is not the problem. What happens inside us can either keep us down or transform not only our lives, but everything that we come in contact with. The sage is different than the saboteur at the deep level of energy, and it changes everything. So this is all based on a book called Positive Intelligence. I've bought you all a copy on Audible, or I will, and I'm going to send you links to those so that you can have it on your device, listen to it. I do encourage you to do that. I do think this is world-changing. When I was a psychologist, I never had anything so useful. There's a book, Everything I Needed to Know I learned in kindergarten. My book would be Everything I Needed to Know I Learned After My Doctorate. Honestly. Coaching has exploded. The brain research has exploded. And the reason I'm using Shirzad Chamine's work, he's the author of Positive Intelligence, and he's the author of the program that I just did in order to bring this to you. So the reason I'm so excited is that he could see, he studied neuroscience, and we have incredible neuroscience to back up what he's saying about the brain. We also have incredible data from over 500,000 people to show that he can actually change lives in a powerful way. And the way that he does it is this incredibly simple technique. He calls it intense. I call it lightweight. You probably should think of it as intense. What's really intensely important is that you do it. But what he's calling intense is 15 minutes a day. I don't know if you've ever practiced meditation or yoga, but you can practice for 10 minutes, but then you get really serious. You practice for half an hour, 2 hours, some people practice a day. There's nothing wrong with that. There are a couple things wrong with that. One is, if you're a busy professional, you might not have that time in your life. If you have kids and a job, who has 2 hours a day? Who has an hour a day? And you say, oh, everyone has 24 hours. Yeah, but you know what? A lot of it's committed. The busier you are, what I want for you is something really efficient. Something where you can be sitting in a board meeting and you can be meditating. This is a meditation. No one even notices. And yet you've changed the activity in your brain. The saboteur is the midbrain. You can't see my fingers with my little screen. The midbrain and the left brain. The sage is the medial prefrontal cortex and the right brain. And I'm going to show you, if you take these practices and do them, you don't have to do them perfectly, just do your best. They're dispersed throughout the day, 2 minutes apiece. 15 minutes total. Chamine, he calls it intense. I call it like, this is the easiest self-care I've ever done. And I can tell you it's powerful. And people who have, by the way, been people who are meditating for 2 hours a day agree. This is life-changing. So it's, as for our lives, if you're a monk sitting on a hill, by all means, meditate. If you're one of us, busy professional, trying to get stuff done, got a family, keeping the household going, this is your gig. And I really believe that if we can spread this as much as possible, it's just going to be a wonderful thing for us. Now, I think that's really most of what I want to say about that. The problem is you need to disidentify with the saboteur. And the saboteur is really easy to identify once you understand. The saboteur is all about negative thinking, negative emotions. If you have your hand on a hot stove, you move your hand. Really simple, right? If you are invested in doing a good job, you might think, well, I have to be really negative. It's just like the hot stove. It's just like an alarm clock. Yeah, the alarm is really important. The pain is really important. Not so you stay in it. As soon as you realize I'm in pain, you move. You move somewhere positive, somewhere that doesn't hurt. The same thing needs to happen with emotions. This is what we're training to do. This is what changes everything. This is what takes you from taxiing on the ground into liftoff. And I say this, I'm really not kidding. It doesn't matter if you're overcoming grief or depression. It doesn't matter if you're trying, to get from a place that is incredibly high functioning to an even higher place. By the way, there is one negative emotion, and it's a little tricky, but there's a negative emotion that is always valid, and that is grief. Okay? Grief is usually complicated. If it comes along with guilt and shame, or if there's a feeling that there's no such thing as a future anymore, that's adding something to it. Grief is painful, sadness, and heartbreaking. But in the context of the sage, your heart breaking just breaks you open so you can be more beautiful in this world as you move through it. And I don't say that lightly because I know people suffer. I've spent my career working with suffering people. And so we're not trying to sugarcoat anything. Actually, the saboteur is the one who will do that. Let's avoid the hard stuff. Make everything pleasant, okay? This is a lie. This is the avoider. The avoider won't deal with the hard stuff. The sage does. So I just want to make sure that it's clear. I'm not trying to talk about a life that's all happy. Being positive means that you're reducing suffering, not just, pain is going to happen, right? The pain of sadness is going to stay real and with us. So the saboteur has a totally different energy. It motivates you through fear, stress, anger, guilt, shame, insecurity. And that motivation is a push, right? And you probably push others while you're being motivated by that. The sage motivates you through empathy, curiosity, creativity, passion, and purpose, and pleasure, right? Those are all pleasurable things. It's what we're made for, right? That's actually mental health. By the way, and I'm not talking against psychologists, because all good psychologists really help people a lot to be mentally healthy. But when I took my doctorate, we didn't have a course in mental health. We studied mental illness. We didn't really have a definition of mental health. I can get into that later. But for right now, let's just keep going. To understand the importance of positive intelligence, there are 10 saboteurs. And I'm going to ask you to do a little assessment. And you're going to go to not doctor, I think he just has a master's, but Shirzad's website is positiveintelligence.com. And there are, let's see here, there are 2 places you need to go there. Positive intelligence, if you go over 3 on the drop-down menus to PQ score, that's the first place I want you to go. That's something I want you to do today, if at all possible. You don't have to, but it'll help you to understand what's going on. The other one is the second one over from home, and that is saboteurs. If you can see the saboteurs, this is really important, because we all have an inner critic, what Chamine calls the judge. I call it the inner critic because I just think judges are supposed to be fair. This is not fair, right? It's going to make you, or reality, or someone else, the bad guy. And I don't think that's ever fair. What we want to do, though, is recognize that when it's happening. And you've probably heard of IQ, intellectual quotient, EQ, your emotional intelligence quotient, and PQ is really the fundamental energy of your brain being either in the critic, which is really just fight or flight energy manifesting in your mind, or the sage, which is really just heart energy. There are 10 negative factors, the saboteurs, of the fight or flight energy. So I want you to do a 2-minute assessment of those, and we'll talk more about the sage as well. But the truth is, in order to really tap into the sage, the emotional intelligence that you have, the soft skills, leadership competencies, stress management, conflict management, if you want to generate trust, if you want to sell and persuade, if you want peak performance and happiness, this is all going to come from the sage. So remember, the key is you'll start recognizing this as we do it. But the saboteurs, they tell you're going to get something if you act this way. Like, let's use the avoider. If you're always pleasant and you avoid all the hard stuff, then things will go well. People will like you. Here's what really happens. The opposite. If you always avoid the difficult talk, people won't trust you. They feel it. They know you're not authentic. You're not being vulnerable. And you might not realize it, because the truth is, you think this is you being you. This is not real authenticity. The child programming doesn't give you adult authenticity. Adult authenticity is truly the sage. And this is the only way to have a beautiful life, in spite of how painful life can be at times. Okay? Let's see here. There are 3 core challenges, and I'm going to note these in the notes, but the first one is a saboteur interceptor. So what we're going to do is really practice using the focus of our mind. This is something that is becoming really well understood. The brain science is amazing. And there's actually a book called Focus, and the author escapes me right now, but I'll put it in the notes. Oh, I think it's Daniel Goleman. He noticed how important this is. Whatever your emotions are tend to grab your focus. We want you to notice the saboteur. That's the first key to changing your life from the inside out. Then, if you notice that, the next mistake that people make is they try and think positively from that place. It never works. The saboteur is like this. It's an energetic state. It's like a vortex. And it's just, this is where, when people are trying to do something really good in the world, but they go about it in a horrible way. And so what are the results going to be, right? But that's what happens inside us. Unless we are ourselves healed, we're going to be spreading unfortunate energy. We move out of that place of criticism and judgment and saboteur, and we move into the sage. That is why you're going to do PQ reps throughout the day for the next 6 weeks. And boy, if I can persuade you, like I've persuaded myself, I'm going to do this the rest of my life. We'll add in new practices over time to keep it fresh, but really, this is not something that ends, because very simple practice, and it's just too powerful not to do it as far as I'm concerned. But we move into the sage. That shift is the second piece. And the last piece is self-command. And that's where we activate the sage. The sage activation is really beautiful. It's kind of the story of redemption. It's remembering that after every winter, where everything just dies and shuts down, there's always a spring. So the sage question is, how can I take whatever this difficulty is that I'm really tempted to be negative about and get into the judge about? How can I take that and turn it into something beautiful, either now or for the future? A simple example of this that is just mind-blowing if you really feel it. Christopher Reeves. He was the actor in Superman. So talk about a model human being, right? He gets thrown from a horse and he's quadriplegic. He's paralyzed from the neck down. Tragic story. But it's not the end of the story. Because at the end of his life, before he was dying, but later on in his life, he was interviewed and he was asked, what would you change about your life? And he said nothing, because he was so happy. He had committed himself fully to a purpose. That's one key for happiness. He'd committed himself so much that people who had spinal injuries in the future would not suffer the way he suffered. That gave him a sense of joy that he had never had before. He said, the example I'm setting for my children is so powerful. I just can't imagine, being more proud of who I am. And wanting to set this beautiful example to his kids. So how's that for shifting something from a terrible tragedy to an incredible gift to himself, to his kids, and to the world? So that's the power of the sage. It's redemption in a nutshell. No matter what the challenge is, we can let it make us more beautiful. And that's a pretty big challenge. It's not the biggest, but it's pretty big. So here's the simplicity of negative emotions. If you're feeling them, stop, because you're in saboteur mode. Nothing good is going to happen from there. Or at least it's going to be really limited. When you're in saboteur mode, you recognize that, you do some PQ reps. We're calling this mental fitness, okay? Well, Shirzad, he says, look, you go to the gym, you get fit, you can lift more weights. You recognize mentally, I'm in a negative place, you do some reps, right? That's practicing moving your focus out of the negativity and to the positivity. And we're going to start doing that tomorrow morning. So this is where The last tape will talk about, downloading some tapes to do that with. But if you're in that positive place, that's where you can activate the sage. And you can begin to wonder, how can I turn any problem into a gift? And that's really where this is going. Now, your superpowers, and by the way, your saboteurs are all just the dark side of your superpowers. There's more of them. The superpowers, there's only 5, but here they are. Empathy, curiosity, an open heart and an open mind. Being able to feel how things are in this moment, that's empathy. Being able to know that you don't know everything. Please don't approach this course like, oh, I already know that. That's not how life truly is. I'm a recovering know-it-all, so trust me. If you are curious, you're standing between what you know, which might be considerable. I'm a knowledge monster. I love knowing. But this moment is new. So there's so much that we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen 1 second from now. We don't know how life is going to change moment to moment. So this is why it's so important we stay in this place of sage, with curiosity about what's real right now, with empathy, so we're heart connected to everything that's happening. From that place, here's the other thing. Your heart is principled. The greatest example is kindness, right? If I'm in my heart and I do something that hurts you, and I see your face, and I see, oh my gosh, you're hurt. I have mirror neurons in my brain. It hurts me when you hurt. So boom, right there. From my heart, I have principles. They're more than that everyone has, but they're unique to all of us. We all are different, and that's good. That's beautiful. We need that. But we're all needing to come from this principled place if we're really in our sage place. From that place where we have empathy, curiosity, and principle, we can innovate, create something new. When we do that, when we have decided what that innovation is, and we'll talk about how to do that individually and as a group, then we take decisive action. And this is where Shirzad talks about, like, you're the Jedi, you're in the middle of the battle. You're laser focused. You're not succumbing to the dark side. You're really, that's a pretty good mythology for this too, by the way. You're really just so focused on what's happening here now and taking powerful action. So this is my talk about the PQ operating system. By the way, every other kind of human development, self-help, whatever you want to call it, every other kind fits into this, okay? Because this is not just some theory. It's based biologically on the brain. And it's based on observations of how basic needs for safety, for connection, for autonomy are dealt with in some either dysfunctional strategies where you just demand it's true even though you don't really feel it in your heart, where you try and earn your love instead of experiencing that love is a gift that's beautiful to you, or you just try and avoid things you don't know how to deal with, okay? So there are strategies that are dysfunctional. There are basic needs that we all have. When you learn how to shift from that saboteur to the sage, it's just going to change everything in your life. So that's my promise to you. It's an old saying from AA. It works if you work it. And if this doesn't work for you, get with me and we'll figure it out. I don't want to. This works, and you signed up. So I'm assuming you know yourself well enough. If there's a problem with it, though, see if we can fix it. If not, I'll provide you with something else. But I think for about 99.9% of people, this is really the way forward. Should work with you whether you're in a place of incredible growth. when I was at Vanderbilt, I worked with incredibly suffering chronic pain and chronic disease patients. I also worked with doctors. And so I worked with hundreds of doctors and helped them to implement strategies that all fall in line with this. So I'm very confident and I'm very excited. And I guess I just need to stop now and say thank you for being with me. The next tape will tell you how to upload some audio files, and they will be the basis of your practice. So when you get a reminder, you click on the audio file that you get that week, and you listen to it for 2 minutes and follow along. That's it. Very simple. At the end of the day, you'll have a chance to reflect on your J very quickly. You don't have to spend a lot of time. I will tell you this. What I'm asking of you, if you take medicine on a schedule, that's kind of what this is, medicine for your brain. If you take that medicine on a schedule, or nutrition, that's good. What you also might want to do is called PRN in nursing, which is to say, when you need it, take a little more. Okay? So I'm just giving you like 10 minutes a day, and you probably could use 15. So I'll probably throw in some longer practices, like instead of 2 minutes, it'll be 5. And we really want to get up to 15 minutes a day. That's not a lot, right? This is the easiest, best self-care I've ever found. And I'm going to try and make it as accessible as possible for you. And if you're having any trouble, I will be here for you. So with that, thank you. And I look forward to working with you for the next 8 weeks, right? 6 weeks, but I'm just throwing 2 more in there because who knows? So talk to you soon.